In between February and March 2025, we saw a streak of new UTL brand Lawls debuting in a pace that we have never seen before. With Lawl Hearts, Lawl DX, Lawl Outer Space and rebranded Lawl Nebula all making their big debuts within the span of a week. This was already continuing a streak of new Lawls debuting every month that started with Lawl of the Lost and continued with Lawl Chaos, Lawl Maximum, a Smash Bros. Lawl Thing 2 and Lawl Mikan. This is insane, and I don't think we've ever seen so many Lawls debut in this amount of time in community's history ever. When Heb did a reaction to my previous era video, he had this to say.
I think we are in this era. I think this is just like the current era we're at right now. Community era. I remember even before I got to this point, I was just like, I was looking at the previous section when it was just the Renaissance era and it was really big. And I'm like, why don't we just split it off like in the middle and just call it like a community era or something.
And I definitely agree with that. And it did make me think, what makes community era so different from Renaissance era? Well, obviously the community is more tightly knit than ever before. Jin is no longer here, but what else is there? Well, after a bit of thinking, I guess the reason it is called the community era is because this is the first time Lawl community feels like a community. Why is that? Well, Classic era didn't have a community, so to speak. It was two factions. People making spin-offs and Jin's fans who didn't like people making spin-offs. Then Standstill era came and the only Lawl hub, so to speak, was Jin's Facebook group. That place was like the Las Vegas of Lawl. Whatever happened in there stays in there. This is also the time when a lot of wikis were made, but those wikis were mostly ran by children. Golden era isn't really where things got any better. Yes, there have been Lawl Discord servers, but they never felt united. There is something I did not mention in my original Eras of Lawl video, because it's difficult talking about them without mentioning some confidential and blacklisted things. But back in those days, instead of something like Ultimate Tier List, there used to be Lawl hierarchies. Not really in terms of spin-offs. Those hierarchies will exist no matter what, based on public reception and how Lawls evolve. The hierarchies in Golden Era were instead dictated by standards. It wasn't really a political hierarchy, it was a competitive hierarchy, and I mean that quite literally. In sports, competitive hierarchies are often decided by the skills, athleticism, and success of the player. The harder you work to keep up that body in tip-top shape, the better you are. The problem with this is, you are not competing in Olympics or the National Sports League. You are making art. Look, I could talk about hours on end about all the issues Golden Era standards brought, and maybe one day I will make a video talking about them. But essentially, if you were not willing to be as perfectionistic as everyone else, you automatically were sent lower on the totem pole. And the lower you were on the totem pole, the more distant you became from the community. If being a good Lawler is being treated as an exclusive club, then what is the point? For at least half a decade, this era gave me a different image of the community. And again, I would make another video about this one day. Transitional era is when things kind of quieted down. There was a brief period of time where there really were zero public Lawl discords. Lawl game server had become private as its future was uncertain, and it wasn't until the end of 2022 when Orius server came around. But in between that time, Ultimate Tier List was created. However, there were changes going on in the community. Like I said in my Eras video, cancellation of Lawl What If, Lawl Soul and Lawldemic led to re-evaluation just how much of this should occupy your life. Renaissance era is where things became better. Ultimate Tier List became more lenient on its rules, and it became a quality indicator that was reliable and consistent, and not too perfectionistic. Not as enforced as Golden Era, not as hands-free as Universe of Smash Bros. LoL Wiki, but somewhere in between. Everyone has those LoL on tier list, they don't consider their cup of tea, but respect their placement in there. When I treated LoL Infection with somewhat snacky tone, I got called out on it on the comments of the Ilas video, and I admit I did a mistake doing that, in something that was supposed to be a celebration of the community's 15-year history. With the Renaissance era putting an emphasis on a healthier LoL community, I feel like the community era's focus should lie on being a community. Community is all about supporting others, helping each other become better through praise and criticism. Many LoLers who once were immature kids and elitists are now mature, full-grown adults. And we have stories to tell to younger generations on what not to do. I want to bring in someone who wants to share their own perspective. Please welcome a very special guest and a good friend of mine, a person named Jun.
So back in like 2019 or so, I had recently started interacting with the LoL community after having been enjoying it from the outside for about a few weeks. I had met a lot of the main community members from someone else, and after seeing all the activity in the Nexus server, eventually I said to myself, hey, what if I tried making my own LoL? I considered starting one beforehand, but this was the time I had really gotten serious about it. So I spent a lot of time working on it, spending months getting assets together and animating moveset and pivot, and eventually released it in July 2020, excited to show people what I had made. And people hated it. With the extremely high community standards at the time, people were extremely critical of the set, and this isn't to say that the moveset was flawless. I admit that it had a lot of problems, but at the same time, seeing people tear apart something that I had spent so much time making and was really proud of at the time honestly really hurt, and immediately kind of traumatized me from ever trying to make a LoL again, and it basically scared me away from the community in a sense. Fast forward a couple of years, and with the high standards of the community lowering dramatically, and with the encouragement of my friends in the community, I finally decided to give LoL another shot. Throughout the production of Metal Sonic's moveset, I was constantly super nervous and worried about my moveset potentially getting trashed once again, and honestly I probably would have given up several times if it weren't for my friends and everyone in the Aria server encouraging me at every turn, which gave me the motivation to keep going. And as it turns out, come the debut of LoL Hearts, people loved it. No longer was I receiving a wave of harsh criticism like I was in 2020. Now I had people commenting on how much they loved the set, with some slight criticism of the moveset's different flaws that I'm making sure to listen to as much as I can. Without the community lending up as much as it did, I never would have felt comfortable coming back, and the fact that I was given a second chance still makes me really happy. I love this new community era we're in, and I hope it stays this way for the foreseeable future.
Yes, thank you, Jun, for giving your viewpoints on this topic. I'm sure a lot of viewers agree with your views and can relate to your experiences. The Renaissance era ends on Harry freaking Potter, which is very appropriate as Harry is the last of the original fighters revealed during the first beatdown empty slot results. Community era begins with the ongoing streak of new LoLs being introduced, which also happens to coincide with LoL's 50th anniversary. The community era does not have a figurehead yet, but considering the color of it in the tier list coincidentally happens to be light blue, and there is another anniversary this year besides LoL's 50th anniversary, and considering this guy and his creator have done so much to bring the community together and will do so in the future, I propose that the symbol of the community era is Decus. Decus is almost like a metaphor for LoL itself. Happy year of Decus, and welcome to the community era. I love that.
Time to read a book? Wow, my favorite Final Smash.